Hi, Teresa. How are you?
I'm great. How are you? Thank you so much for making time.
Thank you so much for having me. I am at 6:10 right now, and so there are people moving around. I do apologize.
No need to apologize. You guys are doing amazing work. Tell me what the LIS Initiative is and what its iteration and purpose was prior to, say, March 13th.
Okay, yeah. So prior to March 13th, we were a Women Chefs Initiative. Our mission statement has always been to address problems that come up and hold people back in our industry in creative and innovative ways. That was getting more women into leadership roles in our industry. And we did that through mentorship and continuing education, entrepreneurial training. We had actually just introduced our third class of LIS Initiative mentees on March 2nd, and things started to look very different 2 weeks later. We had a quick pivot. We knew that restaurants were going to close. Everyone knew restaurants were going to close. But as you know, in Kentucky, these things usually happen much later than they do everywhere else in the country. So on March 15th, when we got the call that restaurants were closing at 5 o'clock, we were in shock. You know, we thought we had more time to plan for that. Essentially, we looked around at every resource that we had, and what we had was food, people that wanted to work, and people that knew how to cook. Essentially, it started with, okay, we're going to turn 610 into a relief center. We are going to cook all of this food that we have. We can cook about 250 hot meals. We know that everyone we know and love is going to be unemployed tomorrow, which was the case. And we also, we have distributors. We're a restaurant. We can order things in bulk. So we started ordering diapers and formula and paper goods and sending out every person on our staff to purchase those things. By that evening, my wine cellar and studio, which used to be a beautiful event space, was a store, which is where we're operating out of. We also had 250 hot meals to go. We had no idea what the response would be and how needed this was. But as you know, Maker's Mark has been our partner since the beginning with Women Chefs. So we had called them and said, hey, we want to do this. We want to have this relief center. Can you help? And they're like, sure, in a small way, we can help you. But they also showed up and they were boots on the ground. Well, at 4:30, we looked out the window and realized there was a line of cars to Central Park.
Holy smokes.
We went through 250 meals in an hour.
Oh, it gives me goosebumps.
I know. And it was emotional and it was deeply personal. I will say that first day, we saw mostly families, people that are most vulnerable to these situations. We looked at our partners at Maker's Mark and we were like, okay, this is not a Kentucky problem. This is going to happen everywhere. So what can we do? We have a network of chefs that we work with. We have you as an amazing partner. So what we did was, had this crazy meeting with Maker's Mark and we're like, how can we make this work? They're brilliant, and had this idea that, no on-premise events or marketing campaigns were going to happen during this quarter. So they scraped the budget nationwide. And we took those funds and did cash infusions into restaurants across the country to rehire their staff and open as a LIS Initiative Relief Center.
Wow.
It's been a really crazy 5 weeks. We now have 19 locations up and running, and we have 3 micro-granted sites up and running that are feeding first responders as well. It sounds like this really crazy and large thing, which it is, and it's a lot of hours and it's a lot of policy and things that we've never done before. We're literally building a plane while flying it. Hasn't crashed. And the formula is simple. Partner with someone you know and love and trust, invest in their restaurant, and feed people. So none of us are doing anything that we didn't do before. It just looks different.
First of all, I'm not surprised that the plane is flying while being built because I've worked with you on some projects and I know Edward and things are going to work. when your team comes together. There's just no question about it. What was that early kind of, what the discussion with Edward, what did that look like?
So it looked a lot like it did when we started the Women's Chefs Initiative, actually, which that entire program was started by the two of us sitting in the office and discussing the media storm that was happening around Me Too. This was shocking. This was offensive and like deeply personal to both of us. So was this. So it was more of a, okay, we've done this before. You know, we have had a quick reaction. Like, how do we address this again? So, you know, it's different. It's not, you know, helping women get into leadership roles, but it's still addressing a problem quickly. And so we did the same thing we did last time. We're like, what resources do we actually have? And that was, we have partners, we have trusted chefs that we love and know that we can work with. And we also really knew that we didn't want to lay off our staff. These people are our families. And we just went from there. I'm not saying we got to keep everyone. We still laid off 90 people, you know. That's a deeply personal experience to have to do. We laid them off and we were like, you know, you can come and get food here. You can take whatever you want. Like, we will help you. We'll be here to support you. But you do have the option. If you would like to go into relief work, we have a job for you. This job is not without risk. We will do every single thing that we can to keep you safe, but there are no guarantees. And, you know, all of our salaried employees did stay on to work with us, and several of our hourly employees did too. You know, restaurant people are social by nature, so it's good to get out of the house and to see a smiling face and to, I mean, even if you're 6 feet apart and you have a mask and gloves on and you're seeing people in a way that you've never seen them before, it's still nice to just be seen and know that you're doing something.
Absolutely. You're generating a solution, addressing one of the 3 basic needs further. Yeah. You became frontline workers overnight.
Yes, which is, you know, and again, that wasn't without fear. I think everyone has cried several times, you know, and part of that is gratitude and part of that is just like shock of the situation. I know for me personally, you know, Edward and I were working 18 and 19-hour days, which sounds insane. But it was actually really beneficial for me because I never felt helpless in the situation and I never had time to watch the news. I didn't really know what was happening. Like, I would sit down and read CDC guidelines to like figure out how to keep everyone safe and protocols that we needed in our kitchen. But as you know, reading CDC protocols, like there's no face on that. Like it's numbers and statistics and like how to be safe. So
I want to go back to something you said a couple of minutes ago about the fact that the first night, 250 dinners were served. There was a line to Central Park, but you didn't see people you knew that night. I'm curious, what kind of responses did you get, though, that night?
There were a lot of tears, you know, people, especially that first night, people were in shock, you know, and we were seeing a lot of young families in the very beginning. I think we handed out like 3,000 diapers, you know, and bottles of formula and, you know, things that are necessary for families to survive. Everyone was grateful, but yeah, it's, you know, I cried into my mask for probably an hour on the way home because I had this man who said to me, you know, I'm 55 years old. I've worked every single day of my life. I've never accepted aid before. And I'm like, the thing that's important to me was handing out boxes. You know, our chefs are putting just as much care into what they're preparing for our relief center as they do for customers who are spending an exorbitant amount of money for dinner. So that's important to me because I want them to feel special. You know, we're here because we love you. So that was a lot. As the weeks have gone on, we're seeing people that we know now, you know, people that we never in a million years thought would need this service. So we're also, you know, it's important to us to reduce the stigma around accepting aid whenever you need it. Because no one could have planned for this. No one plans for a global pandemic. And, you know, who has a month worth of reserves at this point? So
Not many people. I mean,
no.
they say have 3 months salary in the bank. I'm thinking the average American can't do that.
No. Well, especially, when we're seeing people we know, they're, in their late 20s, early 30s, they're just getting into their career. A lot of them, like we have people that are in grad school who all of a sudden don't have a place to live because they had to leave campus or, had to leave their apartment because they're out of school and now they don't have stipends, and it's just total chaos. But we're used to serving other people, not asking for help. And so we want to, part of it is we want to reduce that stigma. Like, you're also giving us, you're giving us the ability to do what we've always done, which is feed people. You're employing our staff by coming. We want you to come.
How might this inform the future of the LIS Initiative? Has there even been time to think about that?
So randomly in the middle of the night, this is what keeps me up at night. Or, Edward and I will have a phone call and we're like, okay, what's phase 2? Like, we have no idea. Our first goal right now is to make sure that all of these kitchens can stay up and running, because when we started this, we're like, oh, it'll be 2 or 3 weeks. No. This, our goal now is to keep them open at least until March or May 15th. We know that we want to be part of the rebuilding process, but we have no idea how. Yeah.
Say rebuilding process. Tell me what that means exactly. I mean, can you give me any kind of indication of the number of a broad stroke number of restaurants and employees who are suddenly, kind of homeless, if you will, or shuttered as a result of this? And is that what you mean when you talk about the rebuilding, rehiring, reopening?
Yeah. So I think it's something like it's 6 million employees who are out of work right now, in small restaurants. Obviously, that number is actually vastly larger when we talk about, the immigrant population that's not being counted in those numbers. There's, we're also talking about farmers and food distributors that supply restaurants. I mean, there's an entire chain reaction happening right now. I've been following pretty closely with the James Beard Foundation, the PPP loans and the grants that they were able to give out. And I think the statistic right now is that 4 out of 5 restaurants have no idea if they will be able to open. I can't imagine there being, a normal dining restaurant scene for a restaurant such as ours for 6 months at the earliest. I mean, this is not, going out for a fine dining meal and doing 6 courses in a very small restaurant, when you've just been furloughed from work for 3 months is probably not high on your list. We're a special restaurant for people locally, but the majority of our clientele are traveling, or they're here for bourbon, or they're here for horse racing or something like that. And none of those things are happening. I know, at least for me personally, I can't imagine getting on a plane in 3 months. Yeah, or maybe not 3 months, but 3 weeks. If this is over with, I'm still not going to feel comfortable, like leisurely traveling.
No, I mean, I need the beach more than I ever have in my life, but I'm going to have to maybe be on the other side of multiple waves. There's talk of a second surge or a second wave. And I'm like, I don't want to do much until we see if and when that occurs,
Right. And it's, we're very, very fortunate, I think, to be in Kentucky, where we have really great leadership and someone that's taking this extremely seriously, and not really involving partisan politics or anything like that, but he's actually just looking at the health of the people here. That's not the case everywhere.
The way you and the LIS Initiative has pivoted is extraordinary. I love the, Busy Phillips jumping in with that. Did that happen yesterday or the day before?
That was yesterday. It was really cool. I never in a million years thought Busy Phillips would send me an email.
How fun.
It is super fun. And I don't know, most people don't know this, but Busy Phillips is very active with No Kid Hungry. Hunger and food security has always been a huge issue for her, and something that she's always advocated behind. We feel honored that she chose restaurant workers as someone to advocate behind in that cause. So she actually did an initial investment in our LA location. and then wanted to help make sure that they could continue. So she's doing a $10,000 match. And the highest donor who donates actually gets a party, post-coronavirus party, where Edward Lee and Jessica Kozlow and the master distiller from Maker's Mark and Busy Phillips will come to your house and host a dinner party.
Oh my gosh, that is so, can you imagine that party?
I know.
I'll be excited to know what that generates
I know.
for your efforts. Really, really wonderful. So Lindsey, I mean, everything that you guys have done, I know your time is valuable, so I don't want to keep you very much longer, but I just want to ask a couple of final questions, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
You know, taking the experience that you have right now, now having seen friends come through and receive these dinner boxes and necessary supplies, feelings that I can't imagine that's created, you know, how are you changed by moving through this personally?
You know, honestly, so more so than looking at friends coming through the line and the need that people have, because there's no amount of planning that could have prepared anyone from this. You know, there's no way you could have, you know, you could have maybe had it a little bit easier, but like you cannot plan for a global pandemic. But honestly, like I've realized how important independent restaurants are to the fabric of our culture. I think about how, you know, people have donated $5, people have donated $20,000, people send us diapers and formula. We knew that we were important to the community, but we didn't realize, you know, people send cards and, you know, spare money that they might not have. It's a very hard time to donate money right now, but they have. While we have corporate sponsors, the community match has been equal. It makes you realize, you know, I read an article recently that talked about how, you know, if you think about a certain part of town, you always think about the restaurants that are there and the people that work there. That is what makes it community for you. And that's more relevant in my life than ever. Like people really care. And it's also made me realize too that people want to help in a crisis. Sometimes you just need to point out where you need help.
Yeah, exactly.
People don't know. And it's, you know, I think it's twofold. You know, it's if you are sitting at home and you feel helpless and someone asks you for something and you can do that, it makes you feel good. And again, it's for me, the thing that's getting me through all of this is that I do not feel helpless.
Right. If you were going to tell somebody in the future a piece of learning or a piece of advice that only this could have brought into your psyche, what would that be?
Oh man. Probably just to, you know, in a crisis situation, your first reaction should be to look around and see what resources you have. Do not try to reinvent the wheel. Utilize what you have, because chances are in your direct network, you have the ability to do great things.
Yes. Thank you so
Thank
much, Lynn.
you.
Thank you for all you're doing. I'm going to add your address to the bottom so that people can donate if they need this. And I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so grateful. Thank you for chatting with me. Sorry I didn't have time to put makeup on.
You're a natural beauty. It doesn't matter.
Okay. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Love yourself, okay?
You too. Thanks.